Hello, I'm Gary Wright from Finextra, and I'm at Cybos Geneva 2016, and today I'm joined by Paul Thomalla of ACI. Paul, thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
What are the current trends for the Internet of Things from a payments point of view?
Well, I think that it's kind of creeping up on us. And from the Internet of Things point of view and a payments point of view, they're almost being seen in two different places. And I think that's a potential problem that we need to sort out. So, Internet of Things, moving into cars, moving into homes, moving into smart cities. Payments is still kind of staying where it is, thinking about citizens, thinking about a treasurer, thinking about retail. And actually, it's the natural extension. And I think bringing them together is kind of the point. Otherwise, I fear that the financial institutions will miss out on what really should be their major next wave of opportunity.
How will IoT payments take shape, and who will be in the driving seat?
This is a counterintuitive type of argument. You need to think about it from perhaps a slightly different way. So the Internet of Things really requires something that banks do really, really well. We in ACI call it NFRs, non-functional requirements, scalability, availability, always on, that type of piece. Well, imagine you've got something in your home and it's feeding the fridge as the milk's gone out, or whatever type of example it is, or it's in your car and it's doing some kind of toll pass. Banks assume scalability and making sure it's always on from the immediate get-go. So while there might be people creating these wonderful ideas about fixing your home, fixing your car, fixing your smart city, what have you, it's really about the fundamental platform and how that works, because at the core of it is the payment, and that's really where the banks come into their own and really make it a success.
Can you talk about some of the use cases that we can expect to see?
Well, I think people have often talked about a retailer, and they've talked about home stocking the fridge and all that kind of thing. Yeah, it kind of makes sense, but I think the ones that are probably more coming to the fore are around cars. How do I manage my car? How do I make sure that the engine is running well? That goes to the insurance, to the actual manufacturer, to make sure my service is on time, make sure that I can pay my tolls, make sure I get my music, make sure I pay for my music, pay for my insurance. Well, all of a sudden those things start to become all one. So I would like the insurance people to be aware that I did get the car serviced, that I did put the right fuel in it, I didn't drive it really badly. Well, how do I get all that information back to them, and how do they benefit from that? How do I know when my service is due? Sure, the little sign could come up, but maybe the sign should come up and say, and Paul, it's just over here, and by the way, the car's already paid for the service, or the car's already paid for the fuel, or my music, it's already paid for. All of those things are going to be part of what the Internet of Things is, because underneath it all, it's the actual devices that drive that. And the more fundamental piece underneath that is, how is it paid for? And how do I become my own ISP, if you will? And that's the branding that I think is going to start to really make the change, whether it's the car, or it's the home, or it's a city, or it's a building. Similar sort of principle will come out.
What type of regulation do you expect to see for micropayments?
Well, I think the micropayments piece is actually really tough to get your brains around. And the regulation around it is actually a fundamental piece. So right now we assume that people make the payment. Well, in the Internet of Things world, that's probably not the case. It's probably going to be a device that you don't even know. So let's make it simple. I ran out of milk. You want to get more milk, you've set the fridge up so that it happens. Well, you're not making the actual request to get more milk, the fridge is. So if I was a legal person, I would say, well, that's not a sentient being, that's not somebody who's made an actual description of this is what I want next. Well, how are we going to regulate for devices making financial requests? And what's the consequence of that? What happens if my fridge goes mad and orders champagne instead of milk, and bottles of it? Am I liable? Is the fridge liable? So those types of concepts need to be thought through, and right now payments is essentially a person to business type of transaction. In the future, as we start to get these things smaller and smaller, it's more likely it's going to be a device to a bigger device, probably to an entity. How that works, I don't think we've got the regulation or the infrastructure in place, and it's something that we need to fix for it to be able to grow and to make the next wave of change happen.
That's great, Paul. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for watching.